Is the framing okay?
Framing's okay. How do I look?
Painting in there. You look good. You look like you're wearing like a curator outfit.
Oh, great, great. Oh, it's these glasses and shit. Okay. The title 1 to 0. I mean, it's literally just flipping the title of Peter Thiel's book about how to build a startup 0 to 1. The idea is that, well, you start from nothing and then you build a thriving business. And the way that you do that is actually by monopolizing an industry niche. To flip that is to say, let's slow down and let's maybe stop. We have a core of like artists that have all worked, shared certain like digital sensibilities and ways of working on digital media. We have one artist whose relationship to digital art goes back way further than any of ours, and is actually pioneer of digital art. And we have other artists who are actually less experienced working with digital media at all.
I think Mira has a funny way of working that I really like, which is like, there's a kind of like, what is the system? What is it meant to do? Okay, let me take that and let me like kind of like flip it and then like reapproach it from this other side. She took this whole idea of like, okay, let's take something that's like unreadable and actually make that into a writing system, which I think like hit the nail on the head as far as like both it being absurd, funny, a system that's like kind of like really, really simple, but also quite like complicated and very beautiful in many ways.
What's interesting to me about it is that what what you get is a mash of just kind of mangled text that it's not exactly that it's unreadable. Like you can pick out hints of I would say like linguistic intention in like what you're typing out, but you probably have to be the one typing in order to know what the thing is trying to say.
So Adriana's project, Memory Intensified by Hand of Manual World, was actually, I guess it was born out of a physical installation, which was actually two projectors projecting on these semi-transparent screens. So you can actually walk around and see it both separated and kind of interlocked together. These series of images are kind of meant to confuse a computer vision machine. It's meant to create this kind of confusion between like what is really being displayed, because as one image feeds into another, it starts to create these complexities that the human eye could perceive, but a computer vision protocol might not.
Damon Zucconi, it's a very flexible system that he's created. This is a parameterized web app called In Tongues, and it's extracting n-grams from a Swan's Way. And so depending on how a particular iteration of this website is I guess defined, you get very sort of distinct kinds of utterances that the website's giving you. And so it's basically these letters spilling out with like the sort of clicking kind of background noise. And to me, it's a little bit like stuttering, but also just kind of like perpetually on the verge of forming real speech. Laurel, Schwulst, and Sydney Shen are working as a duo. They have an existing project called the Perfume Area, and it's an ongoing kind of project of written reviews of actual perfumes that you can buy and use.
I feel like the reviews are actually just like a poem. They're not so much just like, here's what we think of like this perfume.
What they've done for this project is they've adapted the Perfume Area book, which is a set of reviews, and actually brought it into this kind of digital process that so it's a web-based piece that is responsive to the time of day. And so depending on the time of day, the review can actually be more or less readable.
I feel like we had Dirk's work first. We received this collection of gifts.
Yeah, series of gifts that landed in our inbox. When I first opened these gifts, I didn't actually understand what they were showing. They're very intense, and these kind of grayscale flashing vibrating images. Well, I've especially come to understand what he immediately intuited, which is that you cannot do anything without hooking up your cryptocurrency wallet.
Just a simple Photoshop version, but it does create a movement, you know, it does create a kind of like feedback loop.
Laura Brown, she's based in Belgium right now. She was walking through a market a few weeks ago and she came across a French kind of abecedarium toy. She has been playing around with scanning objects and run those scans through artificial intelligence. One of the products is this long kind of block of prose where the sort of large language model, I guess, is basically trying to write a little response paper or a mini essay about what it's seen.
I think there's a couple of systems that are sort of happening in parallel, and I think it works more like a timer than a clock, obviously, because a clock kind of like, I feel like clocks everywhere run by a certain metric that is very objective, and a timer is like you set like a 2-minute timer, right, a 3-minute, and it just has this like its own like mini world inside of it. It kind of became a timer because it was trying to systematically go from letter to letter to letter and just change the whole alphabet in a collection of letters in an abecedary in a way that was not random, but it was like systematic.
I work in the tech industry, and businesses today, like, they need uptime guarantees. And for a very big business, the difference between 99.999% and 99.999999% is actually really significant and meaningful. And in real life, what you want is for the thing to be extremely boring. Like, you don't want change, you don't want spikes. And so I think this work, it's an imaginative work, because it's kind of like, what if this, what if I isolate like those moments of chaos and panic and actually just build the entire composition, I guess, or the sort of dynamic and the behavior around that. For us, like, we've all continued to work in the ways that we do, but there's this other thing that we have to kind of like pivot to like face. And so the the feeling that we landed on was deflation.
I think the deflation thing was tied to like deflated expectations. I kind of think of like a half inflated balloon or something that's also making like a sound. That seemed like a really good metaphor for also like what felt like was being experienced collectively somehow, where it wasn't so much just about like markets crashing or something. It was a bunch of things kind of coming together where I think bureaucracy had also something quite a lot to do with it. There was also the world of NFTs and the world of like super bombastic, sensational kind of aesthetics around 3D graphics, and things were just being so, I don't know, in some ways over the top. And I think like we share a sensibility of, I don't know, let's say like reduced aesthetics.